The House impeachment article slanderously alleges that the president intended for the crowd at the ellipse to, quote, interfere with the joint session's solemn constitutional duty to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election. This is manifestly disproven by the plain text of the remarks. The president devoted nearly his entire speech to an extended discussion of how legislators should vote on the question at hand. Instead of expressing a desire that the joint session be prevented from conducting its business, the entire premise of his remarks was that the democratic process would and should play out according to the letter of the law, including both the Constitution and the Electoral Count Act. The article of impeachment now before the Senate is an unjust and blatantly unconstitutional act of political vengeance. This appalling abuse of the Constitution only further divides our nation when we should be trying to come together around shared priorities. Like every other politically motivated witch hunt the left has engaged in over the past 4 years, this impeachment is completely divorced from the facts, the evidence, and the interests of the American people. The Senate should promptly and decisively vote to reject it. No thinking person could seriously believe that the president's January 6th speech on the ellipse was in any way an incitement to violence or insurrection. The suggestion is patently absurd on its face. Nothing in the text could ever be construed as encouraging, condoning, or enticing unlawful activity of any kind. In the past, numerous other candidates for president have used many of the same processes to pursue their own election challenges. As recently as 2016, the Clinton campaign brought multiple post-election court cases, demanded recounts, and ridiculously declared the election stolen by Russia. Many Democrats even attempted to persuade the Electoral College delegates to overturn the 2016 results. House Manager Raskin objected to the certification of President Trump's victory 4 years ago, along with many of his colleagues. You'll remember it was Joe Biden who had to gavel them down.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
I object to the votes from the state of Wisconsin, which should not be legally certified.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not.
There's no debate.
The gathering on January 6th was supposed to be a peaceful event. Make no mistake about that. And the overwhelming majority of those in attendance remained peaceful. As everyone knows, the president had spoken at hundreds of large rallies across the country over the past 5 years. There had never been any mob-like or riotous behaviors, and in fact, a significant portion of each event was devoted to celebrating the rule of law. According to publicly available reporting, it is apparent that extremists of various different stripes and political persuasions pre-planned and premeditated an attack on the Capitol. One of the first people arrested was the leader of Antifa. Sadly, he was also among the first to be released. From the beginning, the president has been clear. The criminals who infiltrated the Capitol must be punished to the fullest extent of the law. They should be imprisoned for as long as the law allows. The fact that the attacks were apparently premeditated, as alleged by the House managers, demonstrates the ludicrousness of the incitement allegation against the president. You can't incite what was already going to happen.
Donald Trump has a long history
of praising and encouraging violence, as you saw. He has espoused hateful rhetoric himself. He has not just tolerated it, but he's encouraged hateful speech by others. He has refused, as you saw in the September debate, that interview, to condemn extremist and white supremacist groups like the Proud Boys. And he has, at every opportunity, encouraged and cultivated actual violence by these groups. Yes, he has encouraged actual violence, not just the word fight. The president's statements make absolutely clear 3 important points for our case. First, President Trump had a pattern and practice of praising and encouraging violence, never condemning it. It is not a coincidence that those very same people, Proud Boys, organizers of the Trump Caravan, supporters and speakers of the 2nd Million MAGA March, all showed up on January 6th to an event that he had organized with those same individuals who had organized that violent attack. Second, his behavior is different. It's not just that it was a comment by an official to fight for a cause. This is months of cultivating a base of people who were violent, not potentially violent, but were violent. And that prior conduct both helped him cultivate the very group of people that attacked us. It also shows clearly that he had that group assembled, inflamed, and all the public reports ready to attack. He deliberately encouraged them to engage in violence on January 6th. President Trump had spent months calling his supporters to a march on a specific day, at a specific time, for a specific purpose.
And the answer is yes, of course they left it out. The framers were very smart men, and they went over draft after draft after draft on that document. And they reviewed all the other drafts of all of the state constitutions, all of them. And they picked and chose what they wanted, and they discarded what they did not. And what they discarded was the option for all of you to impeach a former elected official.
Donald Trump spent months inciting his base to believe that their election was stolen. And that was the point, that was the thing that would get people so angry. Think about that. What it would take to get a large group of thousands of Americans so angry to storm the Capitol. That was the purpose behind Donald Trump saying that the election had been rigged and that the election had been stolen. And to be clear, when he says the election is stolen, what he's saying is that the victory, and he even says one time, the election victory is being stolen from them. Think about how significant that is to Americans. Again, you're right, over 70 million, I think 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. And this wasn't a one-off comment. It wasn't one time. It was over and over and over and over and over again with a purpose.